Welcome to Wild Wacky Wonderful Humans. This is the podcast that celebrates the quirks, the courage, and the brilliance of being human. I'm your host, Jeanene Tracy, transformational coach and curious explorer. Let's dive in and uncover the magic of being wonderfully human. Welcome. Welcome to my podcast. Woo-hoo, hoo-hoo, hoo. This is really exciting. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I know there is so much information out there at the moment. There's so many podcasts that you can listen to. There's so many audible books you can listen to. There's so many YouTube videos you can watch, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Gaia. So many platforms now that you can be spending your time on, and thank you for being here. This is really cool. We're going to go on such an incredible journey together, and that's my intention, is that this podcast is for us to be human together, for us to uncover and discover and recover our humanity and the truth of who we are, and giving us some kind of confidence and confirmation and inspiration, I guess, to be okay with who we are, because there's so much bloody pressure right now, isn't there? There's so much pressure out there to, oh my God, like I said, there's so many things that we can listen to at the moment, or read, or gather information, learn. There's so many courses. It's just overwhelming. It's incredibly overwhelming. I'm so overwhelmed by it all right now. Anytime I go onto Facebook or Instagram, which I really don't like, but I've been using again for the past week or so, and every time I do it, I just cringe, and I don't want to be one of those people who is, people just like, more content. I want the content to matter. I want people to see, to hear, to feel, and to experience this. Not just as more words that have just been bombarded and fired at people, but rather reminding ourselves of our humanity, of our truth, of who we are and who it's safe to be. It's safe to be ourselves. We're going through a really challenging time right now. There's so much change, there's so much uncertainty, there's so much confusion at the moment. And it's really sad, because so many people just don't know what to do right now. Not only right now, but planning for your future. Like, I can't even imagine what it's like right now to be someone who's about to go into university, or the last 2 or 3 years of high school. Right now, if you've got 2 or 3 years of high school remaining, in 2 or 3 years' time, it is highly likely the job that you're going to go into, the career that you're going to go into, doesn't even exist yet. How incredible is that? So imagine you're, 16, 17, trying to work out what you're going to study at uni. If you're going to uni, I mean, not everyone needs to, wants to, but this is just an example I'm giving of how challenging it is right now. And there's so many different situations where this can be applied to. You imagine you're having to make a decision now of what subjects you're choosing for university, knowing full well that the subjects that you choose might not be relevant anymore. It's freaking scary, man. So yeah, starting with a bit of doom and gloom. That's not a lot of fun, is it? But it's reality, right? We've got to be honest. We've got to be truthful. We've got to be aware of this world that we're living in. It's really interesting, because I know I'm not the only person who's feeling this way. I've had a number of my friends recently reach out to me and just say, the last year and a half to 2 years have been incredibly challenging. Not just simply challenging or just, a few things coming up here and there, but truly incredibly challenging. So deeply challenged that it's, creating a questioning of who we are. Like, who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? I remember, you know, for many, many years, I had many conversations with many people about, but why? But why are we here? This is such a big question. And we don't have to answer it, right? We don't actually have to answer this question, but I think it's healthy to have this question, to have this curiosity. I think it's really important to be curious. It really brings so many more elements to our lives. We'll come back to that later, but I wanted to just touch on, the thing that I kept on asking, why. So, somebody would say to us, okay, so our purpose of being here is to learn and to grow. And, so that by the time we get to the end of our life, we've learned and grown and we have a better understanding of human behavior or of our environment or of people. And then my question was, but why? And different people would give different responses, but, some of the responses would be something like, because then we can, peacefully pass on to wherever you believe you go, whether it's heaven or, reincarnated in another life or whatever that is, become an angel. There's so many different theories around what happens when we pass. And so then I would say, okay, that's fair enough. You have that opinion or that understanding of what happens when we die, which no one really knows, do we? Because we're not here to tell the story. And then my question would be, but why? I get it. I get that we need to learn and we need to grow, and that there needs to be some kind of lesson that can be transitioned into whatever state that we next go into. But why? Why is that important? Oh, it's important for humanity, and it's important for, the entire shift of everyone and everything that we know. But why? Like, why? Like, why? Why does any of this matter? Why does any of this matter? It's really confusing, right? Because if you think about it, if you go with that kind of theory that, we're going through all of these experiences, so humankind or humanity evolves on some level or some plane or some dimension, it really minimizes our role, our experience. Because so we're this tiny, tiny, tiny moment in time. Now, if we're lucky, we might live 70, 80 years, maybe 90. By the time our kids are 100, it's probably going to be 120, who knows. But if you think about that in the scheme of humanity, in the scheme of, how many generations have lived before us and how many will live after us, that's another whole topic, right? The damage that we're doing. Then, yeah, we're just this tiny little moment in time. And so it's so easy to become so complacent and so disregarding if you take on that point of view, right? And I know that I've been through this phase. Nothing matters. I used to have this saying, which I still believe, but it was quite dominant in my life. Everything matters and nothing does. Or nothing matters and everything does. And I still believe that, because I think when we're gone, what we did, what we experienced, the emotions we felt, the emotions we expressed, the feelings that we had, the interactions that we had, the lessons that we learned are not necessarily remaining, unless, of course, we pass them on. And so this is another really interesting conversation when, you know, one of the psychological methodologies, and I can't for the life of me remember it right now, but the phases of human development and the phases of growth throughout our lives. And one of the phasing phrase is when people become in their 60s plus, they want to give back. They want to start to mentor and start to educate and start to pass on their wisdom, right? Because it's, you know, handing of the baton. It's passing on the things that we've learned so that they're not lost. And I have a real desire actually to help humankind, I guess, if you like, on a deeper level, not just passing and having had no impact whatsoever, but actually making this matter. All of the pain that I've experienced, all the sadness I've experienced, all of the, you know, the anxiety and depression and, you know, those moments of darkness that I've felt. And in those moments of darkness, you can truly believe that none of this matters. You don't matter. I don't matter. You know, you can truly, truly believe that. And then, you know, everything passes. Everything passes. This too shall pass. And when you understand that, the pain is not forever. The pain is not, I mean, it might be for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, possibly. But it doesn't last forever. And when you truly believe that, then you allow yourself to release the thing. But so what I don't want is I don't want to experience all of this pain and this growth and these learnings and it be for nothing. Because then it does feel like, what is this for? What is this for? And so obviously, you know, passing on to future generations and passing on to, you know, our children or people in the community or other people who will gain wisdom to share in turn. I think that's really important and it gives some substance to mattering. You know, all we want to do is we just want to matter, right? We just want to be important in some way, or our life to be important in some way. I really love the saying, and again, I can't remember who said this. I think it's Anon, an anonymous person said this. In order to be satisfied in our lives, there's 3 things that need to be occurring, and that's something to do, something to look forward to, and someone to love. And when we have those 3 things, then we feel a sense of fulfillment. We feel a sense of satisfaction. Now, I think that's probably slightly outdated now as well. And I also truly believe that someone to love doesn't need to be like an intimate partner, for example. It can be a child, it can be a parent, it can be a best friend, it can be, you know, somebody that you can share your heart with. You know, it's such a beautiful feeling to be able to share your heart. And I know right now, you know, there's so much loneliness out there. It's really bloody sad. There's so many lonely people in our world, and it's intriguing actually because as a kid, I felt lonely. You know, I felt alone. Lonely and alone are 2 very different things. Lonely is something that, you know, I wouldn't wish on anyone. And, you know, as an adult, I didn't really feel lonely. And it wasn't until COVID hit and I had just moved to Melbourne, which was the longest locked down city in the world. We were locked down for 278 days and we were only allowed outside for 1 hour a day, and we were only allowed to travel up to 5 kilometres from our location. And we were only allowed to leave the house for one of four, and then it increased to 5 reasons, medical. It was really crazy how, the reasons we were allowed to leave the house. And so I had just moved from a place that didn't get locked down, from the Gold Coast, warm, sunny weather, beaches. I lived really close to the beach. And then I moved to a city studio literally on the 8th of April 2020, and we locked down 2 weeks later. And so in that time, I was living in this tiny studio apartment. There was no sunshine, there was no outdoor area, I didn't have a balcony. It was tiny. And I'd moved to a new city. I didn't know anyone in the city. And for the first time as an adult, I felt lonely. I not only felt lonely, I felt so alone. Like, I felt so separated from so many things. And it was such an intriguing experience. And, it makes me so sad to think that so many people in our world are so lonely, not just for a short period of time, but for a very long time. And it becomes quite a perpetual problem, right? Because when you feel lonely or alone, you can quite easily retract and not interact with people. And then that in turn kind of creates this perpetual situation where you're constantly lonely, because you're not creating opportunities to interact with people, because you lose your confidence and your self-esteem and your self-efficacy. And so it's really quite a vicious cycle, really. It's a really vicious cycle. And it makes me really sad. There's a line in one of Tracy Chapman's songs, which I absolutely adore. And it's, why are people alone when there's so many people in the world? I can't remember. I don't think I'm saying it really correctly. Why is a missile called a peacekeeper when it's aimed to kill? Why is a woman still not safe when she's in her home? Why are people lonely when there's so many people in the world? Like, there's millions of people in the world, and there's so many lonely people. It's incredible. It's so incredible. But anyway, I feel like we need to have a reason. We need to have something to live for, right? We need to have a reason to wake up in the morning and get out of bed, because it's easy to not. And believe me, I have days like this, right? I don't want to get up today. I don't want to face the world. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to interact with anyone. And I know that when I go into that state, it's really, really important that I break it. It's really important that I go outside. I go for a walk. I connect with other people. I see people's eyes. I smile. Something that simple, right? It can be just that simple for you to feel connected with the world. It's really important to do that, so that we don't get into this really vicious cycle of perpetuating the loneliness. I have no idea how we got to this, and that's the beauty of this podcast, right? I just literally open my mouth and things come out, and it's quite interesting. So yeah, I think an invitation, if you wish to accept it, and of course you don't have to. It's always an invitation, right? An invitation is an invitation. You can always say yes, or you can always say no. It's completely up to you. But my invitation is, just ask yourself today, why does this matter? Why do I matter? What can I do today that reminds me that this matters? Now, it might be something just like connecting with another human being. It might be contributing to something or someone in conversation, or, online, or at work. It could be, planting a garden and watching the seedlings grow and caring for them. It could be caring for somebody that you wouldn't have normally cared for, or someone that you generally do care for regularly. The thing had in my mind was like elderly person or someone who needs additional help. But it doesn't all have to be for an altruistic reason, or for so that you can feel like a hero. That's not necessary to feel like something matters, right? It could be something so simple as just noticing something and just seeing that we're a part of this world and that we matter in this world, because humans are important to the whole picture of this thing that we're in, this experience that we're in. I don't even know what this is. Oh, it's so interesting, isn't it? I've heard people talk about being in the Matrix, and it's such a believable option. Or being in a game, like, are we being guided purposely in a game? We think something and then suddenly it appears on our social media feed. It's like, wait a minute, I was just thinking about a Dyson vacuum cleaner and there's a Dyson vacuum cleaner ad. How the hell does that work? It's so bloody insane. That blows my mind when that happens. It 100% blows my mind. I can understand when it's verbal because it's been picked up. Big Brother is listening, right? Big Brother's always listening. Oh my God. Oh, this is such an intriguing life. And generally love living this life. It's really difficult and really challenging. But if I really just step back and just go, why does this matter? And does this matter? Am I, the whole don't sweat the small stuff many years ago. I don't recall the author's name, but it was a really big thing in the 70s or 80s, I think. Don't sweat the small stuff. Choose the arguments. Choose the battles. Like, really, is it worth your time and energy to fight about something or to fight for something that doesn't actually matter? Sometimes we spend so much time focusing on things that don't actually matter. Spend the time on the things that make a difference to you and your community and your people around you. Don't waste your time on the things that don't matter. Having an argument for the sake of having an argument because you have to be right. What is the point of that? If it's to make yourself feel good that you're right about something, then just have a look and just see if there's another way that you can feel good about yourself, rather than making somebody else wrong. Because in that equation, one party, or most likely both parties, walks away feeling not too good, even if you did win in your eyes. It doesn't feel nice. So, yeah, if you want to, have a look and just see, where am I spending my time on things that really are not contributing to being authentic and truthful to myself and to my community? Am I doing that? And you might not be doing that, but, it's always good to do a bit of a stock take on, what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh my goodness, it's such an interesting question, isn't it? And we could talk about this for hours, but I'm not going to, because you've listened for long enough. So I'm going to wrap this up. And if you have any questions, please ask. If you have any contributions, please contribute. This is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. This is a conversation. This is us sharing this experience of being human, right? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With so much love and so much joy and so much gratitude from my heart to yours, I thank you, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Wild Wacky Wonderful Humans. If you had fun, share it with someone just as wild and wonderful as you. Stay wild, stay wonderful, stay wacky, and I'll catch you next time.